Hey everybody, welcome to the channel and almost happy new year. It's almost 2024 and I thought about making our last tutorial of the year, so I hope everyone enjoys it. Today we're going to focus on the new Shopify app development framework, official framework, which is Remix. And I thought it was going to be a pretty cool tutorial since it's been a little requested lately. So here, as you guys can see in the screen, we are looking at the official documentation or API reference for Shopify app Remix. And you can see a quick start right here. I'm just checking the screen as you guys do so we get familiar with this framework together. This is how you create an app. We're going to do this in 1 second. This is how you install a Remix. And we have another things right here and we're going to check them one by one as we go along with the tutorial. So I'm going to tell you a really quick overview of what we're going to do today. We're going to hit the GraphQL API. We are also going to, I'm definitely going to hit the admin REST API as well. So you guys have a clear example and then you guys can work on your projects. I'm going to also work with Team App extension. So we're basically going to create a chat widget that will communicate with our admin application. So we're going to need a server in between our applications. So I'm going to show you a diagram in a second so you guys can see the architecture of our project. And I'm going to show you, between other things, how to work with Polaris, a couple of useful commands, how to configure Ruby if you're using Team App extensions. And yes, so that's pretty much it. So I hope you guys enjoy the tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's content. If you have any questions, just hit me up in the comments and I try to answer and be as helpful as possible. So let's just start. Okay guys, so the first step that we're going to do is that we're going to set up our application. I'm going to go to the browser and here in our Shopify documentation, I'm going to copy and paste this code. Then let's go to my terminal and right here, I'm just going to navigate to my desktop. You can create the project whatever you want. Then I have a Shopify folder right here. And right here, I'm going to copy and paste this code. A few of the requirements for this tutorial is that you need an application store for Shopify. You need Node.js installed in order to run this command. And yeah, I think that's it. So I'm going to press enter and let's wait to see what happens. It's going to ask you for the name of the project. I'm going to name it Remix Chat. And here is asking you if you want to start by adding a first extension or just with Remix. And I'm going to start with Remix. Then it's asking you if you're going to use JavaScript and TypeScript. Let's use TypeScript. Let's wait until all dependencies are installed and I'm going to skip the tutorial for now. Now that this is ready, it's going to show us a couple of options and we even have the option to generate an extension right away. We're going to do that in the later part of the tutorial. For now, I want you to navigate to cd remix chat and then run npm run dev so we can install our application in our Shopify. You need to be logged in into Shopify. So I'm going to type cd remix chat. And here inside, let's install our application. So I'm going to run the command npm run dev. And let's wait until our application is generated. And here it's going to ask you a few questions. This is basic configuration that you guys done before if you guys done Shopify development. I'm going to create a new application. I'm going to name it Remix Chat. Automatically changes, so yes. So let's just wait until the application is installing. As you guys can see right here, we have a review what's happening. We see that the application is building. We have a webhook, which is one of the webhooks that are installing the application by default. It's app uninstall webhook. You can see how it's delivered here. I'll show you how to set up the other webhooks in the project. It's pretty easy. So let's just copy this link. I'm going to go to my browser again. I'm going to copy and paste this part. And then Shopify is going to ask you to install the application, okay? So here you have some basic information. Just install the app so we can see it in our store. I'm going to hook the application here so we can see it. And this is the application. We have a pretty basic template. As you guys can see, we have an additional page and then we have a button that will generate a product. I will show you how that works now, but for now, I think it's time to open VS Code, and I'm going to open our project, okay? Remix up, okay? So once we open our project, we're gonna have a few folders right here in the folder tree, and I'm going to give you a quick recap. Some of you probably are beginners, but if you're familiar with React and Remix, you guys will need this part, so you guys can go ahead and skip. We have a pretty basic TypeScript configuration for our project, nothing new here. Now this is the Shopify.web.toml, and here we have a few overview of our project. We have the name of the project, it's using Remix. Here is telling us the role, which is a front end and a back end. As you guys know, Remix is a full stack web development framework that's used for server-side rendering. So yeah, let me go to the next file, and this one is a little bit more important because you guys can see the version, the API version that we can use. It uses by default the latest version, and this is an important file because right here is where we set up our scope. So whenever we want to access a certain endpoint from the Shopify API, we need to set up the scopes first here. And I'll show you how we work in this part as well in a second. We have a few redirect URLs, and yeah, let's go to the next file. We have our Remix configuration file, which is pretty basic from Remix. We have our README file. So yeah, I think we can skip this part or have our package, the JSON, typical for a React project. And we have other files as well, like a Docker file. We have our git ignore and just typical configuration files. But let's focus on the most three important folders from our project. We have our extensions folder. Every time that we install an extension, it will go right here. So we'll take a look at this folder in a later part of the tutorial. We have our Prisma folder where we configure our schemas right here. This is where we configure our database. The default database that we use is our SQLite. We have a session model already configured for us. I will show you this folder, and we work with this folder later in the tutorial as well. So as for now, we want to focus on our most important folder where we have the root of our project right here, which is the root.tsx, and this is the root of our application, so meaning the entry point, and we have a few imports from our Remix run React. This is where we have our outlet component, and this is what displays our other pages from our application. I want to jump into our Shopify server.ts file, so I want to show you this is the file that defines and exports our Shopify application from our Shopify app Remix package. Let me see, I think this is from here. Yep. And I'm going to break it down for you guys really quick so you guys have an idea how this works. This is the file where we define the Shopify app using the Shopify app function that you guys can see right here. And then we expose it to or export this Shopify object to the rest of our application. And this function takes care of a lot of configuration for us. We have our API key, our secret API key, which are used to access our API. We have our API version. We have our scopes, we have our session storage. This is where we configure hooks, our webhooks, and then here is where we use our hooks. Okay, so I'm going to minimize this part right here, and I'm going to show you the official documentation just to show you subscribing to webhooks. And as you guys see, subscribing to webhooks, your app must respond to mandatory webhooks topics. In addition, your app can register to optional webhooks topics. Okay, so the mandatory hooks that we have by default are right here. Hold on, I'm going to show you in the routes folder. We have a webhooks action. So this is the mandatory webhooks our application needs, our custom data request, our customers redact, and our shop redact. Okay, and we have this by default, which is our app uninstalled. So this is what triggers every time that we uninstall our application. This webhook triggers, and it calls our DV session and delete the shop from our session storage, and that's what Prisma pretty much takes care of. And here we have a few overview of how to install our webhooks. You can set up our webhook right here. And this is a really quick overview of how we set up a webhook. I want to show you the test cases that we have for every webhook. If you want to check that out, you would go here. This is the documentation. Yes, let me just go to Google. I'm going to open a new tab. Shopify API docs. Just test really quick and go to our GraphQL Admin API. You have to go to the GraphQL types to enums. I want you to scroll all the way down, and here you're going to show, it's going to show you all the webhook subscription topics that you can. We have a lot of options right here. As you guys see, this is our app install. We have card create. Let me show you really quick how we set up a webhook. So just grab this bar, copy and paste it, and this is basically how we do it. And here we have to change our topic. So let's copy this card create hook and change the topic for this one. You save the changes, and then you would go to our webhooks hook or action hook, which is generated by Remix. Here in our switch statement is where we would add a new case statement. Okay, so after the break, I'm going to add a new case, and this is going to be our card create. Okay, so in this case, I'm just going to console the log, the payload. Okay, when we're going to take a look at this hook later, but this is how you would basically configure a webhook in a Remix application. And then don't forget to add the break statement, and that's pretty much it, right? So every time that you create a card from the store, let me see, we have, yes, the webhook topics card create events occurs when cards are created in the online store. This is our entry the server, and this is what handles a lot of our authentication headers when we interact with Shopify. And this is mostly a Remix file that handles our server-side rendering and our server configuration for our project. You can take a look at this file here on the Remix documentation. I highly recommend it to go over this documentation. It's really good and it's really descriptive, so you guys can learn a lot from here. I'm not gonna take really details into this part. This is our DB server entry point, and here's what exposes our Prisma object to the rest of our application, and we can access Prisma. This is our routes folder. This is where we generate routes from our project. This is the entry point. So this is where we configure our navigation for our Shopify application. So if we go to our store, this is what handles this part right here. Okay, this is the additional page that you guys can see right here. And this one right here is our index page, which is the first page that we see in our application. And here you can see our action. This is the action that we trigger every time that we create a product. So if we generate the product, you guys can see how this generate this orange snowboard product. And this is the code that handles this. You can see clearly that how we access the admin GraphQL. And yeah, I will show you some live examples right now. And let's create a new page. So we get started with this tutorial. I'm going to go right here to our application. We're going to create a new link. And this is the beauty of Remix. It's really simple. Let's call this application collections. Let's name it collections. I'm going to save the changes, and then I'm going to create a new app, that collections.tsx. And this is and Remix is going to handle this for us automatically, and every time that it looks for the collections page, is going to basically loop through this routes folder and find the app collections, and it's going to match. So basically it just matches, finds it by name. So I'm going to just generate a component, and TypeScript component. I'm going to name it collections. me just get rid of this part right here. Let's save the changes and let's see what's happening in our store. And as you guys see, we have generate our new, oops, we have a 404. I think it's not ready yet. Yep, it's right here. As you guys, it's already, it's been generated already by Remix, which is pretty cool. Let's just put parentheses right here. And I'm going to use Polaris, okay? So we have a 100% Shopify tutorial. So I'm going to start with a page component, which comes from Polaris. And then I'm going to wrap this in a layout component as well. And then we have a layout section, and here we can start with a card from Polaris as well, and we can start with a hello world. Let's just put a hello world. Let's see if it's changing in our application. And as you guys see, we have a little card. Let me open the browser one more time, and I'm going to find a Polaris Shopify documentation. So we go along with the documentation, with the official documentation, and we can check our components. So basically what I just used was this component right here for a page. And here you can see the card component or a layout component, and we have many examples that we can use, and Shopify gives you the code, the snippets. So yeah, so it's really simple. It's just a matter of going along with the docs. Okay, so so first example, I think what I want to do is I want to access the collections. I want to access the collections endpoint for the Shopify Admin API, and I'm going to use the GraphQL API, okay? So before we access the admin API, let's take a really quick look at the documentation. So I'm going to scroll up really quick here, because before we access the API, you always need to take a look at the documentation first, because some of the endpoints, as I said before, have scopes. So you will need to add the scope and then update the application before querying the admin API. So I'm going to query our first. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to access our collections. So I'm going to just find here in query collections, and I'm just going to check really quick if we need some sort of scope or access scope. So as I see, I think we don't need a scope, so we're good. And it's a really good practice to check out, because you can see that the documentation shows us examples. We're using Remix. You also have other examples that you can use. We have Ruby, we have Node.js, we have work in the past, we have Remix, right? So yes, that's pretty much what I'm going to do right now, but I'm just going to do it by myself. But if you need an example for querying or working with GraphQL, which I know it can be a little confusing if you come from REST, you can find everything right here. So let's minimize the browser, and I'm going to start working on it. Since we don't need a scope, we just can start working right to it. I'm going to start by working on our loader function. And when it comes to Remix, some of you, I don't know who is familiar with Remix or who doesn't. When it comes to Remix, we have two options. We have our loader function, which is pretty much what takes care of our GET request. And then we have our action function, which is pretty much kind of a pause request. So it's what handles mutations, and the other one is what handles queries. Okay, so as for right now, I'm going to query the collections from my admin. So I'm going to use our loader function. So let's just start by, I'm in capital. So let's start with our loader function. So I'm going to export. I'm going to start with a constant and name it loader, and it's going to be an asynchronous function. It's going to get the request object, and this is our function. And since we're using TypeScript, I think I need to specifically name it the type, and I think the type is loader function from remix type. And here, let me just reconfigure this so it's imported as a type. And yeah, that's pretty much it for now. I'm going to use a try and catch so we can handle any sort of errors, and I'm going to console the log or errors. Okay, and for now I think I have to export, or I need to import my admin function. So I'm going to await or authenticate from Shopify, and here is how we access our admin, and then we have to put our request right here. So this is how we are going to handle and access our admin API, and we can grab our session, right? So let me const and grab our session. If I can type, okay, and then we can use our section later right here. So from our session, we can grab our two objects, which is our shop and our access point. Access token, I'm sorry. Okay. And this comes from our session. And let me just check that everything is working, and yes, everything's working. So let's just type an await and user fetch function. And pretty much what we're going to do right now is we're going to we're going to access our API just directly using a link. We're going to type HTTPS, and we have to inject our shop and also our API version. Okay, so that's what we're grabbing the shop from our session, and here in our admin API, in our admin/API is where we type our session. All right, so or version, I'm sorry. So that's how. That's what we, so if you remember correctly, that's what we were importing from our Shopify function object. We also export our API version, so we have to inject that as well. That's what we're going to do right now. So once we are done with this part, I think we can keep, we have to put our GraphQL JSON part at the end of the URL. Now open curly brackets, and the next part that we need to do, we have to specify our method and our headers and our body. And we have to, since we're working with GraphQL, it's always going to be a post request. We have to put our headers, and that's our typical content type application that JSON. Well, in this case, we're using GraphQL, so you have to specify that as application GraphQL. And then in the header, since we're doing this manually with fetch, we're not using the admin object that Shopify provides for us. So I just wanted to show you this manual example. If you want to work with fetch or Axios or other library, you have to pass the headers in. You have to pass in the headers or Shopify access token. So you have to name or X Shopify access the token. That's how it's called. That's how it's in the documentation from Shopify. And then you have to import the access token. Okay. Now in the body part of our method, we have to inject our query. Okay, so I'm just going to show you how we do it, and I think let's just do it manually here. We're going to query our collections. So let me just go up here, and I'm going to type a constant, and it's going to be named query. So now that we have this ready, let's just put our body, or let's just put our query in our body. So yes, that's pretty much it. Now this is our fetch function. So now this fetch is going to be, so now this call is going to be stored in a response constant, and here we can handle if we have a response, or if our response is okay, we're going to do something. Otherwise, we're just going to return null. So if our response is okay, let's grab everything in a data constant, or response. Let's grab our response JSON and put everything in a data constant, and then we have to destructure our data object from and return the edges as of GraphQL. Okay guys, so now that this part is taken care of, let's work on our collections. So we are using our loader function, so we have to use our remix hook, use loader data as of remix documentation. You can check this out in the official docs. So just grab everything, put everything in a collection, just grab everything from our hook and put everything in a collection constant. And we want to display this on our console. So I want to check if we're getting a response. So let's put everything, and then we have to, let's put a comment here so we know what we're grabbing. Collections. And I think everything's working. Let me take a look at the terminal and see if everything's working fine. I see a lot of comments right here. But yeah, I think we see some errors. So let me just minimize this part. Let's go to the browser, and here we can open our DevTools. Let me inspect the element and see what's happening. It should work. Console, and yes, as you guys see, we're getting a response, an array of 10 objects from our collections on our console log. As you guys see, everything's working perfectly. I think these are my collections. Yeah, everything seems to be working fine. Let's just grab and see what we get as a response. If we go to my admin or products or collections, you guys see I'm getting the collections that you guys see on screen right now. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So now let's go back and let's try to display these collections on the screen, all right? Or at least just the name and the description. So yeah, so why not? So we can also practice a little bit on our Polaris skills. So as I did before, I created a layout section. Let's create a new layout section. Let me close the tag here. And we have to, I'm going to put everything on a list component, which is going to be a type bullet, and gap is going to, and the gap is going to be loose. So yeah, let's type this on the screen. Next, we have to open curly brackets, and then we are going to map our collection. Okay, guys. So let's just type our collections and then map, and then open our map function. And then here, I'm going to grab the edge. Okay, so we have to destructure our edge, and we have to destructure our edge first, and we have to destructure our node object, okay, that comes from our edge as of GraphQL. And here we can just let's just do an h2, and here we can put our title and our description. All right, so let me save the changes. I think that's pretty much it. Let me minimize the page, and I'm gonna go back to the browser, and everything's working perfectly. As you guys see, everything's being displayed on screen. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I hope that was useful for you guys. And let me see what we're getting. Yeah, everything seems to be working smooth. So I think we can do another example. Let's try to query or products endpoint from our API, admin API, because we are going to need the scope. So I want to show you how that flow works, how we have to add scopes and then uninstall the app to update the application. Okay, so let's do that next. Okay guys, so now that we're going to hit our products API endpoint, we are going to add our scopes first. Okay, so let me show you first the documentation, because I want to show you how you can find a list of the scopes, of all the scopes that you can find. And if I remember correctly, I think it's somewhere right here. So yeah, so it's in this part right here. API is a reference from the Shopify documentations. This is where you can find a list of all the scopes, and you have some notes right here. All apps need to request access scopes for specific data access. And yeah, let's just scroll down, and you guys can see an entire list of the scopes that you can use. Okay, that's what I wanted to show you pretty much, so you can check it out by yourself. And yeah, just use it however you need to use it. Let me minimize the browser. I'm going to go to our Shopify app.home, and right here are write products. So we need access to read products this time. So let's just type it really quick. You have to save the changes, and as for now, we need to go to my terminal one more time, and I'm going to Ctrl C. So I'm going to run So I'm going to run the application again. So for now, we need to run this command in order for the changes to update to reflect in our application. So I'm just type npm run Shopify app config push. I'm going to put the commands on screen so you guys can see it. So npm run Shopify app config push, and let's see what happens. Let's just wait, and I think it's gonna reflect the changes. And as you see, we have a new scope. Just click yes, confirm changes, and once it's confirmed, we have to reset the application. So type npm run dev. We have to put 2 dashes and then 2 dashes again, and then click reset. Okay, so we're going to reinstall the application. Let's just wait for the changes. Hold on. No, connected as a new application, and this is our current application, Remix Chat. Let's wait for the changes to reflect, and we have to, yes, just click tap yes. Hold on just for 1 second and see how our application webhooks, our application runs again. You see how everything's configuring one more time. So now copy and paste the link, and we have to go back to the browser, and here in our development store, click enter. So I think it's going to ask us to install the application again, or maybe not. I'm not really sure. Let's see what's happening. So to see if there's no problem. Yep, I think everything's ready. Yep, let's go to collections. And yeah, everything seems to be working nice. So now we have the access to read products from the API. Let's minimize the browser. Let me minimize this part right here. And I'm going to create a new page, okay? So we keep practicing, okay? Working with Remix. Let's go to the app file. Let me copy and paste this, and I'm going to create a new page. So this time it's going to be called products. Let me put products right here. Let's save the changes. Let's go to my routes folder, and I'm going to create a new file which is going to be called app.products, the tsx. Let's do a snippet, a React snippet. Let me get rid of this boilerplate, and I'm going to name the component products. Okay, let's save the changes. Let me go back to the browser one more time to see we're reflecting the changes. Yep, I think everything's working now. Let me minimize the browser, and then we can start working on our function, okay? So one more time, we're going to query products. I'm pretty sure the query is very similar, so I'm going to copy and paste this query, and I'm just going to replace a couple of things. Let me copy and paste, and this time is going to be products, and I'm just going to query the first 5, okay? So I think everything is pretty much the same. Yep, everything's pretty much the same. So now let me go to my collections and then copy this part again, because we're going to use the loader function again. And in the next sample, we're gonna use our action function, all right? So you see how the flow works again. So let me import this from Remix. Let me make it a type import. And yep, everything's good. Now I'm going to try and catch. Let me copy and paste and create this try and catch again. So a lot of the boilerplate is going to be exactly the same. So console.log error. Okay, let me just go to my collections here. We're going to need the same things, pretty much the same things. Minimize this part so we have more space. Let me do the necessary imports. And yep, let me go back to my collections, and yeah, everything's gonna be exactly the same, guys. So let me just copy and paste this part. Oops, I opened this part. Let me copy and paste and then do the modifications. So let me import the API version. So yes, so instead of collections, it's gonna be here products. Let me just replace that for products, and let me save the changes. And here I'm going to use again my use loader data. So let's put everything in a products constant. products, which is going to be of type any, and this is going to be our use loader data. Okay, and let's put everything in a console log so we can see everything on screen. Products, and here products as well. Okay, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's go to the browser and see what's happening. And yep, as you see, we are getting a response of our 5 first products. And if we take a look, yeah, this is my products from my Shopify store. Let me show you in my Shopify. I have a few products here, and we're just grabbing the first 5, which is, I think the order is by created. Let me see if that's true. Yeah, so you see small boys, Polish. Let me see the second one. You can see the first one is small boys, the second one is Polish pine, and then this Apple MacBook. Let me go back so we can see if the names match. Remix chat, this, if I remember correctly here. Let me see the new response. Everything seems to be working nice. Okay, let me go back to my VS Code, and then we can display the products in the screen. Okay, so it's pretty much gonna be the same. So I'm just going to copy and paste this part, this layout section. Well, we don't have a layout section right here. Let me create again a page. A page component. Then we have to create a layout, as you guys should know by now. Then we have to create a layout section. I'm going to put everything in a cart. And here inside the cart, let's display everything. So I'm going to grab this list, copy, and then I'm going to paste it right here. And I'm just going to replace that for products. Okay, products, and product. Okay, and I have to import the list component from Polaris, save the changes. Let's see if everything's working in our browser. And yeah, everything's working nice. As you see, we are getting the name of the product and the description of the product, which is pretty cool. So I think that was it for now. I show you 2 examples. We query the collections endpoint and the products endpoint. I show you how to work with scopes, how to update the scopes, and all the commands that you guys are going to need to do the necessary updates for the application. Okay, so now I think we can do an example how to query the REST API. So yeah, because why not? So I'm going to go to my file tree and I'm going to create a new page. And this time I'm going to access the inventory, okay, inventory levels for my application. So I think I need access scope again. So let's go back to our Shopify account. And here I'm going to do a comma, and then I'm going to type read inventory, and then we have to do the flow one more time. So let's put read inventory. Let's save the changes. Let's go to my terminal. Let me shut down my application, and I'm going to work on that again. So here you have to run the command again. Okay, let's wait until Shopify detects the changes, confirm the changes. Now the application is down here. We have to reset the application. Okay, so let's just wait until everything's working. Let's connect it as an existing app, and it's our Remix chat. Let me just click enter here. And yeah, that was pretty much it. Let me go back to my application, and for the moment I'm going to create another page, and it's going to call inventory. So let's go to our inventory. Let's create a new link. Let me put inventory. Let me save the changes, and I'm going to create a new page, and let's name app inventory and TSX. And as you guys are noticing, everything's very easy with Remix. Everything's so smooth. That's what I really like working with Remix. It's very similar to the ones that are familiar with Next.js. Inventory. Let me rename these. Let me get rid of these props that we don't need for now. Oops. Okay. Yep. Let me go back to my terminal. I hope my app that didn't broke. Always keep checking. Let me copy and then let's see what's happening here. Okay. So see, sometimes it's going to ask you to update the application due to the scopes update. So update the app. Just wait 1 second while everything's working again. So yep, everything's working. So now we can minimize the browser and work on our endpoint. This time, as I said before, we're going to work on our with the admin API. Okay, it's similar but a little different. So yeah, I just want to show you how this part works. Okay, so let me put right here. I'm going to use the loader function again. All right, so I'm going to go up here. I'm going to copy and paste the snippet, and I'm going to go above my snippet, my React snippet. Let me import this part. Let me make my screen bigger. All right, so let me make it a type import. Here we're going to need two things: the session and the admin part. Okay, so let me wait and authenticate from Shopify, and then we have to access our admin, and from here import the request in our admin, and then put everything, and then we have to grab from our destructure object. I think we need our session and also our admin part. Okay, this is a constant session. Yep. So again, we're going to do a try and a catch. Okay, so in here, the difference is that we're going to here access our admin, and then instead of GraphQL, you just have to access the REST API. You type resources. Oh fuck. Resources right here, and then you have a list of all the endpoints that you can access. As I said, we're going to access our inventory levels. So inventory level, and I'm going to access all my inventory levels. Okay, so inside here is going to access it's going to ask for an object, which is going to take our session, and here we can inject our session. And below here we have to access our location ID. So the location ID is the location ID from the inventory level that you want to access. Okay, so you can find that in the Shopify, in this part of Shopify, in the Shopify URL from the inventory level that you want to access. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to my products, if I remember correctly, is this one right here. These are my inventory levels. Let me go to this one. Yep, I'm going to use this one, and this is the location ID. You can see it in the URL on top of it. So it has a location ID for every inventory level. Okay, so this is the part I'm going to copy. Let me see if that's all of it. Yep, this is the number. Oh man. Yeah, so just copy and paste this part, minimize the browser, and inject that right here. Okay, guys? And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Let me grab everything in a response object. Response. And then we can verify if everything's working. Okay, so if the response is okay, we're going to do something. Otherwise, we're going to just return null. All right? Return null. I'm going to okay, I think we don't need the okay, so I'm going to put a console the log right here, hit, to check if we're hitting the endpoint, if we're getting a response to be more exact. So const data, and then we are going to grab our response data, right? Response data. And as of now, I just want to console the log, the data that we're getting from the response. So let me put the data object right here. Let's put data. And right now, since we're not working with GraphQL, we are going to need a JSON response. And the way that we handle this in Remix is we have a special hook or function that's called JSON. And that's how we grab or JSON responses from our backend, because we're literally grabbing, we're hitting an API and we're grabbing a JSON response, and that's how it's documented in Remix. Okay, you can see the documentations for this function in Remix documentation. All right, so let me just show you how you do it. So we need a return, and then we have to put JSON. Okay, JSON, and here is going to be an object, and it's going to return inventory, and that inventory is going to be our data. All right, so let me import that from Remix. You guys gonna see it comes from Remix run node, right? So save the changes. Now we are going to grab our data on our user loaded data hook. Okay, so data is gonna be, we need, since we're working with types, we need with TypeScript, we need types. So let me just do this, let me just do it like this for simplicity. User data, and then we're going to console the log or data, right? And then put a mark here so we know everything's coming from somewhere. And yep, I think that's pretty much it. Okay, let me just fix that part right here. Let me save the changes, and now we're going to check if we're getting a response from our REST admin API. Okay guys, so now that we're done here, let's check on the browser and see if our endpoint is working. And I'm going to open my browser, and let me just see, and I think it should work. Let me just check the terminal in case, because sometimes if the data doesn't display on the browser, it can be displayed. You guys are gonna see the response on the terminal as well. So I highly recommend that you check the two of them. Let me check the terminal, and yeah, I think I see inventory level. I think we're getting a response. I think it's working, but for some reason it's not displayed on the browser. So I will take that as a victory, it's working. But yeah, I think this is pretty much the response. Let me see. Let me just scroll down. Let me see where's the beginning. Yeah, it's working perfectly. You guys see my hit, my console, my hit. That's where I mark hit to see where the endpoint starts. And then you can see the response, how we getting all the inventory levels are all the products that we have available in a certain inventory location. And as you guys see, I have many products available in this inventory part. And yeah, that's pretty much how you work with the REST API. And it's similar, it's very similar so the GraphQL, so you don't have to do GraphQL queries. Everything's already done for you in the Shopify. You just have to inject the necessary objects, but you can also grab these objects. You could grab these location IDs dynamically from another query, so you don't have to type this manually. But this was just an example, all right? So for the next part, I think we already had a look at the loader function from Remix. I think we should work with the action function. So let's create a mutation with GraphQL so we see how the flow works with that. Okay, so let's do it. Okay guys, so for next part, we're going to create a discount mutation. So I'm going to just basically create a function that will create a discount for the entire application. Okay, well, let's create a new screen. So as you guys already know, let's go here, and I'm going to create a new endpoint. So I'm going to name it discounts, and I'm going to go to my routes, and I'm going to create a new screen, discounts.tsx. Okay, I'm going to save the changes. I'm going to go to the browser to see if the application is working. Yep, I think it's working. Hold on. Yep, now it's working. So minimize the browser. And as for the discounts, I'm pretty sure we are going to need a new scope. So let's go to the app temp. And here we're going to put a comma and we're going to type right discounts. We're going to save the changes. I'm going to go here. And then I'm going to go to my application. I'm going to Control C. And then we have to update the changes, right? So just run the command Shopify config push. Let's confirm the changes. Okay, once the changes are confirmed, let me install the application one more time. Now connected as an existing app, Remix chat. Okay, so now the application has been reinstalled again. I'm going to just grab the URL, update the application. Let's wait 1 second while the changes are reflecting in our new application. Okay, so now that everything's working nice, let's minimize the browser, let's minimize the terminal, and work on our screen, okay? So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create our action function, okay? On top of our component, let me have some space here, and I'm going to export const action. It's going to be of type action function from Remix. And it's going to be an asynchronous function, just like the loader. And inside here is going to take a request object, which is going to be an arrow function. And yep, let me make it a type import. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's going to be similar to loader function. And we're going to need a couple of things to query and to make our mutation. So the first thing is we're going to need our authenticate object from Shopify, and let me have access to the admin API. Let me inject our request object. Then let's destructure our admin object from our authentication. Admin. Okay, so that's the first thing. The next thing that we're going to need, okay, let's just start with this part. Let's do a try and catch block. Console.log error. Okay. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is let's access the admin API. So right now, I'm going to type await admin, and then we're going to access the GraphQL API directly, okay? So I'm going to open parentheses, and right here is where we are going to inject our mutation, okay? I'm just going to, it's a very long mutation, so I'm going to copy and paste it. I grabbed this mutation from the documentation, so let me show you. I'm going to go to the docs, to the GraphQL admin API, and you have a lot of examples, and I think it was right here. It was from the discounts, right here, from discounts to marketing, mutation. The mutation that we are going to use, the exact mutation is this one. Discount is this one right here. It's called discount code basic create, and you need the right discount scope as I showed you before. So this is the mutation that we're going to use. You have a Remix example right here, and as you see, this is the mutation and also the variables, which are the fields that you inject for, you know, creating different mutations. So as you see, you inject the title, the code, the stars, and the date stars, and it ends, the discount ends. So yeah, that's where I get the mutation from. Let me minimize the browser, and then I'm going to copy and paste this mutation right here, okay? So this is it. So this is the mutation that we're going to use. I'm going to make this bigger so you guys have more room to see everything. And yeah, this is the mutation, and this is the fields that we need to inject to our mutation. Okay, so I'm going to just copy and paste them as well. Okay, so just above our admin GraphQL endpoint, I'm going to paste this part right here, and we need one more endpoint, which is the discount title. For now, we're going to just pass them like this. Once I see that everything's working, I'm going to pass this data dynamically from our front end. Okay, so from our Polaris text field, and I'm going to send yeah. So I'll show you how we work on that in a second. So const discount, and here we're going to inject the title. The title is going to be YouTube example discount. I think that's a good name. Let's save the changes. Okay, so below here, everything is gonna be working exactly the same. So I'm going to check if the response is okay. Oop, I think I forgot to grab this in a response object. Response, and here, hold on, response, it's okay. Okay, so if we don't have a response, we're just going to return null from our function. Okay, so const response, let's call it JSON. We're going to await our response, the JSON. Okay, I'm going to console log created a discount to just make sure that we're creating the discount. So, and finally, since we're doing a mutation, we need to return the response from the mutation. Okay, so we need to use our JSON function from Remix one more time. So let me return JSON. Let me import it from Remix. And right here, we're going to type discount, and then the discount that we're going to return is our response JSON data. All right, response JSON data. Let me save the changes, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so now in our component, on our discount component, I'm going to come here, and then we're going to need a couple of things from Remix. So the first one is going to be our submit function that we're going to use to handle the submission from our function. Okay, so submit is going to be equal to use submit a hook. Submit. Okay. Next, we're going to need our use action data, which is the same as our hook version from our use loader data, but this one applies to our action function. Okay, this is all a Remix. You can check all these out in the documentation. So const action data is going to be equal to use action data. Okay, and here is going to be of the type of action. Okay, and below here I'm going to do a console.log that will display our action data. All right, so we can see everything on the screen. And now we need to use our submission. Okay, or submit hook. Okay, so for that we're going to call this const generate discount. Yep, that's how I'm going to call the function. And here I'm going to create an arrow function that's going to call this submit. And inside here we have to pass an empty object, and then we have to pass a couple of things like a replace, which is going to be true, and we also need to pass the method, which is going to be a post method. Okay, so post. And now we need to handle this generate discount. Okay, so we need to use a Polaris button component. Okay, so let me just get rid of this div. Let me open parentheses and import page. Let me create a card component. Okay, just let's create a card component to make it fast. Let me import this from Polaris. And here I'm going to create a button that also comes from Polaris, okay? So this button is going to have a submission type, so submit. And here I'm going to name it just create discount. Okay, so oops, create discount. Okay, so now how do we pass this function inside our button? All right, we in Polaris, let me just minimize the browser and I'm going to show you, just want to show you how everything works, where I'm getting all this information from. We have a form component, which is this one right here. So it's basically the same as React. You use the form component and on submit, you import the function, all right? So whenever you submit, everything that's inside this form is going to be triggered and passed down to our function or action function and then handle the submission from the post request, okay? So just let me wrap this button in a form. That's basically how you handle mutations in Shopify, okay? So instead of using the Shopify form that I just showed you, I'm going to use the special form that comes from our Remix package, okay? So the difference is that we can use form data which is used in React as well, and it's more familiar with everyone, and it's easier to use than the Polaris component, okay? So that's what I'm going to be using. All right, so I'm going to quick and import this from Remix instead of Polaris, okay? So I'm going to import that. I'm going to copy and paste this part right here. Let me make everything bigger so you guys can see everything. We're going to put our generate discount function, all right? So now we need to specify the method, which is going to be a post method as well. So we have a warning here. It's just about the types. Let me fix it and save it. Save the changes. So that should work. So let me minimize everything. We already refactored our application. Let's make sure everything's working. Yep, everything's working fine. So let me go back to the browser and we're going to check if everything's working. So let's go back to my application. Let's refresh the application and here we have our button, right? So now we're going to click and it should generate a new discount, global discount for the entire application. It's going to be expired, so it's not going to apply. So we're going to fix that in a second. So it's going to be called YouTube example discount. So let's just make sure you guys see it. I'm going to click the discount right now to see what happens. And we have error right here. You define an action, but you didn't return anything. Please return a value null. So I think that's normal. Let me check my discounts. So the discount generated, so it's this one right here. Discount example, YouTube example discount. This is what we just created. It's a fixed amount, as you guys see. Let me show you. This is my VS Code discount amount. As you guys see, I'm discounting just $3. I'm going to do another one. I'm going to discount 100 and I'm going to name this one number 2. I'm going to do another query so you guys can see it. But let me show you 2024. Let me update this discount, okay? So we save the changes, we go back, and as you guys see, this is active now. It was because we generated the discount with an expire date. Let me deactivate these discounts. So you guys, I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to show you how the discount is working, okay? Let me deactivate these discounts too. So let's go to the store, to the online store. So it's this one right here. You can see our preview. Let me hide the bar and let me check. So here we have our product. Let's add the product to the cart. And as you guys see, we are applying the discount, the YouTube example discount. Let's view the cart. And as you see, it's a $3 discount, okay? When we created the discount, let me go back to discounts. You have the option to create, you can discount a fixed amount or you can discount a percentage. My query was a fixed amount, or you can do a percentage, which I think is more recommended or more used, so more often used in discounts. So let's do another query to check our function. Let me go back here. So this is going to be the number 2 discount. Now we're going to do $100. Let me make it 2024 so we don't have to make any modification. Okay, let me go back here. I'm going to close my store. Let me go back to my application. Inside here in discounts, I'm going to run the discount again. So, okay, the query run. Let's see, we have a lot of messages. I want to know what's happening here. It shouldn't return null, but the mutation is working. As you guys see, we have a new mutation, a new discount, I'm sorry. Let me deactivate this discount. Okay, let's deactivate the discount. Let me go back. And yeah, let's go to the store and see if we are applying a discount of $100, which sounds pretty neat. Let me check. View your store. Let me add product to the cart. And as you guys see, our YouTube example discount number 2 minus $100, it's working. So we have code our first mutation using GraphQL Admin API, which is pretty cool. I hope you guys, if this is useful for your applications. So this is working nice. So yeah, let's go back. Let me close my stores. I have too many tabs open. Let me go back to my application, and I think that was it. Let me go back to my code, to VS Code. Now let's try to pass the values. I'm going to show you what I told you before. We're working with this form component instead of working with the one from Polaris, we're working with this form component from Remix, which it's easier to use, all right? So I'm going to create text fields from Polaris. So let me go here. I'm going to use this text field, and I'm going to pass the values dynamically, all right? So this text field right here, this is the one I'm talking about. Let me copy it. And below here, I'm just going to pass a title, all right? So to keep it simple, guys, so we can focus on other parts of the tutorial. Let me just refactor this really quick. So here, make it an import from Polaris. We don't need this part. Let's name this title. Okay, let me go back to the browser and see if the changes are reflecting. Okay, everything's reflecting. So in our text field, we're going to pass two props. We're going to pass the ID, which is going to be name as discount title, right? Let me go back here. And also we're going to pass our name. We don't need a comma. We're going to pass our name. And it's also going to be discount title, all right? So that's pretty much it. Let me go back to my action function, and here we're going to grab the values, all right? So our discount title is going to come from form data, okay? And this form data is going to get our values, okay? Oops, get. Okay, now let me console the log this data. okay? Okay guys, so this form data has to be, I forgot to import the object from form data. So let me just copy and paste this part right here. So it has to come from request, the form data, right? So let me save the changes. And before I forget, the text field is going to need the value and the set on change values in order for the text field from Polaris to work. Okay, really quick, we're just gonna need to create a constant, and here we're going to type discount title and also set discount title. All right, let me make this one a capital, and this is going to be from use state. It's going to come from use state, and it's going to be an empty string by default. Okay, so this is going to be the default value. Hold on, we need this field, and here on change we are going to need to pass the value here, and then set and call or set a title function, okay, and pass the value again. So let me save the changes and let me check that everything's working. So this is our text field, and let me just type something really quick, and yeah, everything's working fine. So as for the last step, we instead of just give me 1 second, instead of discount title, okay, so instead of passing this discount title here, I'm going to let's pass it here. Okay, so we're injecting whatever we type here is going to be our title in our mutation. All right, so that's pretty much it. So let me minimize this part right here, and let's test our function. Okay, let's test the method. Let me call it new year discount. Okay, now let's hit our method. Let me hit a method to see if it works, and I think it's working. Let me go to discounts, and yeah, as you guys see, it's working. So that was our first mutation. Let me click on the mutation, and you can see all the values that are generated for us. You can play around with this code. I will put all the code in GitHub, and yeah, let me go back. And I think for now, the next thing that we should focus is on, we're going to create another mutation. We're going to access this time the customer's endpoint. Let's use our database, all right, kind of a CRUD operation. Let's create a customer and then store the customer in our Prisma database. So I'll show you in this part of the tutorial how you interact with the database, so with the backend of things of Remix, okay, using Shopify at the same time. So let me minimize this part right here. Let me open my Remix chat. This is all good. Let me close all these tabs, and we're going to create one more screen. Okay, so let's go here. I'm going to copy and paste this bar right here, and I'm going to name it customers. Let me save the changes. Let me go to routes. You guys are already familiar with this flow. Customers tsx. Let me create my React component snippet. Ts. Okay, so for creating a customer, I'm pretty sure we're going to need again to update the scope. So yeah, let's do it. So this time we're going to need the right customers. And this is a good exercise for everyone that's just getting started with working with the Shopify API. So customers, right customers. Yep, that's pretty much it. Let me go back here. Let me Control C again. Let me config and push the changes. Let me confirm the changes. Then let's reset the application. And okay, everything's working again. So let me minimize this and let's work on our screen this time, okay? And it's gonna be similar to our discount mutation. So if I was you, I would pause the video, I would pause the tutorial and try to make it by yourself, okay? We're just going to have a slight difference, okay? After we create our new customer, we're going to store the customer in our Prisma database. So before that, so thinking about it, let's start working with that part first, and then have our method ready so we can use it when we create our new mutation for customers. Okay, so I'm going to go to my Prisma folder, and right here we are going to need to create a new model, right? So below the session model, I'm going to type model, and I'm going to type customer, and here I'm just going to have 3 fields. All right, so I'm going to type our ID, which is going to be a string, and it's going to be a type ID. You can just copy and paste this part right here, okay, to make it a little faster. The tutorial is getting long, I know. Name, and this one is going to be, let's see, an email. Okay, let's make it an email. And yep, that's it. Let me save the changes, and now we have to make a migration with Prisma, all right, to see the changes. Before making the migration, I want to show you, let me open the terminal here. I want to show you how you can see your database in Prisma. So you have to type npm run Prisma studio, and it's gonna be running our local host. And as you guys see, the text changes right away. So for now, we don't have any, we have an error here. I think it's because we haven't done the migration. It's cool. And then let me check my session. We don't have anything in the rows, but this is the command how you check your database locally, all right? So let's close this. Let's go back to VS Code and do the migration. Let me Control C, and the code for making the migration is npx prisma migrate dev, okay? You have to name the migration. Let's just type new. And yep, that was it. That's a migration. That's pretty much the migration that you have to do. And since we are done with this part, yep, you can just one thing before we start working on our method. This is where you switch database. We're using SQLite, but here you could use Mongodb, Postgres, or MySQL, any database that you want. I highly recommend that you check the docs for Prisma. It's also really useful and very easy to use. That's it. That's pretty much it. So I'm going to go to my app folder, and I'm going to create a new folder that's going to be called API. I think this is the convention for Prisma, and here is where we are going to start our this is where we are going to store basically the backend from our application. Every time that you create a file with Prisma and you end it with the server, the application or Remix is going to detect it as a server file, and it's going to treat it as a server file. So basically that's going to be, Remix is going to say that's the backend of the application. That would be the equivalent to your Node.js application. Put this name, prisma.server.ts. That's what I mean. So this .server is what's going to tell Prisma that this is a server file, okay? So inside here, we have to create a method, right? So let me export and const create customer. It's going to be an asynchronous operation since we're working with a database. And here we're going to pass our email, and we also are going to pass our name, okay? We need to specify the types, so I'm just going to use any for now. So inside here, I'm going to return a wait. We have to call our Prisma object. The customer, as you guys see, it detects the customer model that we created before. So, and I'm going to type create, okay? So all these methods are in the documentation again. You can just check everything there. The data, and here is where we are going to inject our data. We need 3 fields. We need to pass the ID. I'm just going to pass it like this manually. You could use a library like UUID to make this dynamic. I don't know. So here I'm going to pass our email, and here also we're going to pass our name. And have to treat this as any, okay, just for now. This is basically the backend of our application, okay? You can do a lot of things here. You could access your database, you can access a different API that's not the Shopify API. So yeah, that's how you write the queries. Let me save the changes. Let me close these tabs, and let's go back to customers, and we can start working with our customer mutation. Okay, so since it's gonna be similar to our discount, I'm just going to copy a lot of the boilerplate here. So one of the things that we need is this action method. Here, have customers. Okay, so above the React component, let me import my action function type. Let me make it a type import. Let me go back here and see what else I can grab from here. We're going to need this part. And let me import the authenticate object from Shopify. This form data, we're not using this form data. We're going to pass the email and the name, right? So email is going to be equal to form data that get and email. And we also are going to need a name. Okay, so name. Let's refactor this. Let's console the log this value so we don't get these errors. Okay, so now we can do our try and catch. Okay, and again, I'm going to copy and paste the mutation, okay, because it's very long mutation, and I'm just getting the mutations from the Shopify API docs. So again, you can check that out if you want. So, okay, so this is the mutation, and this is the values that we're passing, right? So what we are going to do, let me refactor this really quick. Let me expand this part and the response, okay? We have to check if the response is okay. Hold on, if the response is okay, we're going to do something, and if it's not okay, we're just going to return null. So if the response is okay, I'm going to console log hit to see if we are if we're getting a response. Let me grab the data in a constant await response.json. And here, let me console log data. Let me copy paste this data right here. And also, let's return JSON from our JSON function from Remix. Let me import that. And here, I'm going to name this data, and it's going to be data. Okay, so I think this is it. So now in this part right here, we are using our email and our first name. So let me grab this. Let me replace these values. So email is going to come from our UI email, and our first name is going to come from our UI as well, name. So okay guys, so the next thing that you have to do is just inject in our variables the data that we get from our UI. Okay, so I'm just gonna copy and paste because it's basically the same thing that we did on our discounts. And let me show you right here. And as you see, this time we're going to use two text fields, so name and email. We're going to import or use submit hook from Remix. We're going to use our use data action from Remix as well, and then we're going to create or generate customer object. Okay, then here in then below here in our UI, we're going to use a page, car, form, and text field and button components from Polaris. And then we're going to inject everything, okay? And then do the submission form as you guys see on screen. So let's test this method. And then after we see that everything is working normally, we're going to come back here and refactor our action method so we can store this customer on our Prisma locally. Okay, so let me minimize the browser and let me minimize the VS Code and go back to my browser, and it should be working. Let me just type customers, and yeah, everything's working. So let's test the method. I'm going to type Lionel Messi as our customer, messi@gmail.com, and let's create a customer to see if it happened. Yeah, I think it's working. No, we got an error. So we need enter a valid number, a phone number. Let me go back to see what happened here. I think we need one extra number. I think I knew that was gonna happen. Let me save the changes. Okay. Let's retry it. Lionel Messi @gmail.com. Okay. And yes, I think it's gonna work. Let me go to customers. And as you guys see, Leo Messi Tapia. I'm not really sure why it has Tapia here, I think. But this is the customer that we just created. Let's see if we can see the date. Just now, as you guys see, the method is working perfectly. So that's really good. So now, let me go back to Remix, okay? Let me go back to VS Code, and here, and right here, we're going to await, and we're going to create customer. Yes, this is the function, the method that we created that's on our backend. And inside here, we need to pass our values, right? So as I remember correctly, we need to pass our email and our name, okay? So email is going to be email, and also our name is going to be our name, okay? So yes, that's pretty much it. So after we save the new customer in our Shopify API admin, we are going to save it locally on our database, and then that's, you know, the use cases are infinite. You can use these in many ways. You can maybe every time that you create a new customer, you can also store it in a database and then do, I don't know, some data science with this data. And yeah, I don't know, you can play it. I'm just showing you how you can implement it with the new Shopify official framework, which is Remix. Let me go back to the browser and let's test that everything's working. So this time we're going to create a new customer, Cristiano Ronaldo @gmail.com, and let's create a customer. I think it's going to tell us that the phone number is already in use. Yep, I knew it. So let's use a new phone number. Let's just type this 786. Okay, let's save the changes. Cristiano Ronaldo @messi@gmail.com. Let's create a customer, and yeah, I think it's working. Let's see if it's customers. Yep, the Cristiano Ronaldo customer is being created. Now let's check the real part. So now let's check Prisma. Okay, so let's npm run Prisma Studio and to see we have our customer store and customer. We have one customer, so I think it worked. As you guys see, we store Cristiano Ronaldo customer in our database, and we store our name and our email. So yeah, that's amazing. And that's basically how you work in the front end and in the back end, and also in the back end in a Remix application. You guys can check the documentation again, but I think this tutorial is enough. It's very simple. It's easier than React and Node.js to work with this framework. It's amazing. So that was pretty much it for working with the API, with the Admin API. For now, for the next part of the tutorial, we're going to move on to theme extensions. So we're basically going to create a theme extension, and then we're going to make it interact with our Admin API. Okay, so yes, let's do it. Okay guys, so for the next part of the tutorial, we're going to work with theme app extensions. So I'm going to open the browser really quick, and this is the Shopify documentation for theme app extensions, and you guys can see we have a few descriptions on what you're gonna do. I think you also have a little tutorial on how to create an extension. This is the code that we are going to use to generate an extension using npm. You can use yarn and pnpm as well. So I'm just gonna copy this code again. And yeah, and basically this is showing you everything that you have to do, all the configurations and how to deploy your extension. Okay, so as for the moment, I'm just going to close the browser and I'm going to go to my terminal where I have my application running. Okay, I'm going to Control-C so we can stop our application, and I'm going to run this command to see what happens, okay? Because we want to create our first extension. So I'm going to click enter and see what happens, okay? Let's wait 1 second. And here it's going to ask us a few questions. So what's the type of extension that we want to use? And we have a few options that I will be happy to create new tutorials for all these options in the future. So for now, we are looking for our theme app extension, which is online store, this one right here. So I'm going to click enter, and we have to name an extension. So I'm going to name it YouTube chat, and that's it. Right, so let's go to my folder and see if we have generated the new extension. Let me close all the files from before. So yes, it's right here in your extension folder. In the file tree, you're gonna see the new extension app. So this is the liquid code that Shopify will generate for you. These are a few snippets. Yeah, I think we have to run. I'm going to run the application so you guys can see what happens. So you guys can see the extension in real time. So let me run npm run dev. It's this one right here, and let's wait 1 second to see what happens. Okay, I think the extension has to be installed in the application again, and maybe we have to reinstall the application. And as you guys see, we get an error that we are using Ruby version 2.6.10 that is not supported, and you have to use Ruby 2.7 in your system in order to use Shopify extensions. And this is a problem I ran into before. And basically what you gotta do, the only thing that you have to do is update Ruby version in your system. All right, if you're using Mac or Ubuntu or Windows. So Ruby version, and as you guys see, and as Shopify told me before, I'm using 2.6.10. And there is a really easy way to solve this problem, and I'm going to use RBMB, which is a Ruby package manager. So I'm going to show you RBMB versions. So this is the version that I just installed in Ruby. I'm using 3.1.4, but in order to use the Ruby version in my system, I have to run a few commands. I'm going to put the commands in the screen so you guys can use them in your computers. You have to use rbnb init, and then it's going to tell you to run this command right here. Let me copy and paste this part, and then you have to run rbnb local, and then use the version that you downloaded using your Ruby package manager. So I have 3.1.4 in my system. So that's it. Now if we check our Ruby version, you guys can see my system is now using 3.1.4, and now npm run dev. If we run our dev command, it should work. So let's give it 1 second for the application to install again. And as you guys see, there's no problem. So if you guys run into this version configuration problem with Ruby, just run these commands and that's it. You're gonna solve the problem, okay? And we have a few messages here on our command line, and as you guys see, we have our extension running in our local host. And so if you copy and paste this part, you're gonna see your extension in localhost, but we have to go to our store first and install the extension in our online store first. So I'm going to copy and paste this part. I'm going to go right here. Let's copy and paste our new application. Let's go to our online store. And now let's go to customize. And it's this one right here, Remix Chat, right? As you guys remember. So now that we have selected, let's see where in the template is our Remix new widget. It should be somewhere around here. So it's this one right here. Perfect. So I'm going to save the changes so we can see it permanently. We can see it in our store live. And let me view my store live, okay? So we can see this is our theme extension. So that's basically how you create an extension, okay? So now that we confirmed that our extension is working, let's minimize the browser. Let's minimize this terminal, and we're going to do a pretty cool project. I'm just going to work on a chat widget. I'm going to create a typical customer support chat widget that you guys see in most websites nowadays, where you have a widget on the corner right here, and then you can just open it and chat with customer support. And we're going to connect this widget with our admin application API with Remix, okay? So we're gonna create a connection between the two of them. We're gonna need a server as well. So basically the flow is going to be, we're going to talk from our Team App extension to our Node.js server, and then our Node.js server is going to talk to our admin application using Remix, okay? That's going to be the flow of the network. So for this code, I'm going to get rid of this boilerplate. We won't use this boilerplate, neither this one. Let's change the name of these to Remix chat widget. Let's save the changes. So yep, so and right here is where we are going to just use normal HTML to create our widget, right? So I'm going to create a div right here, and this div is going to be called main. So let's put a class name here, and I'm going to create another div which is going to be of ID. Let's put an ID here because I'm going to use JavaScript. Okay, I'm going to name it chat widget. We're going to need a class as well to style it with CSS. So let's put chat, and we're gonna have an onClick as well, okay? So this onClick is gonna be a function called toggle chat, okay, that we're going to create in 1 second. So below here, we're gonna need a script tag. So this is where we are going to put our CSS, and then above here, I'm going to put a style tag. So here we're gonna have our CSS, and below here our JavaScript. Okay, so since this is not a CSS tutorial, I'm just gonna copy and paste the CSS right now. So yep, so that's it. And remember, the code is going to be available in my GitHub repository. You guys can find all the links in my description. Okay, so below the div, we're going to have a span widget, and this is going to be the name chat. Okay, let me just save this part. And so this is basically going to be a little circle that's going to be the widget before we open it. So inside here, we're gonna have the actual chat, so the box that opens up after you click on the widget. Okay, you'll see this live in a few seconds. So I'm gonna have an ID, and it's gonna be called chat window, and also a class which is gonna be chat window style. Okay, and here and inside here, I'm gonna copy and paste this code. So yeah, this is another div that's going to be our container for input chat. Okay, and here you guys can see I'm using just an input and a placeholder that's gonna be type your text. So that's gonna be below the box chat, and we have also a button that's going to trigger the send message function that's gonna communicate with our backend basically. So, and this is the CSS, and you guys can just check it out yourself. So let me save the changes and see what's going on, if we are reflecting the changes on our online store. Let me see what's happening here. And yeah, I think I saw the widget. It's this one right here. Right, nothing happens because we're not using JavaScript, but yeah, this is the widget as you guys see it. Is the chat, this green little box. So everything's working now. So let me minimize the browser and keep working. This time we're gonna work on our JavaScript, and here we are going to do a few calls, and I'm gonna use Ajax to communicate with my backend. Okay, first I need to create a function. Let me create a function, toggle chat. This is the function to open our widget. Okay, so we need to access that. So const chat window is gonna be equal to document the get element by ID. Oops, get element by ID, and here we need to pass our chat window. So here basically we are just changing the style to open to close. So every time that we click on the toggle chat, if it's open, we're going to change the CSS style to block, so we can see the little box that pops up after you click on the widget, and otherwise we are gonna click none. So let's see if the functionality is working already. Let's see if the changes are reflecting. I think I'm going to have to refresh this part. Oh, I think it's not working yet. Oh yeah, right there. Okay, now it's working. Now, as you guys see, that's pretty much the chat. If I type something, nothing happens because we haven't done anything yet. So let me close our window here, and let's keep working. So as you guys see, I also want the chat to be enabled if you click in other places. If you click in other part of the window, that's not the chat. We want the chat to close. So that's a pretty easy thing to do. We just have to add an event listener, and we need to listen for a click, right? So here, let's create a function that will have an event, and here, let's create two constants. So yes, so basically here to add an event listener to the chat window and the chat widget. So whenever we click in something that doesn't contain our target, which is our chat widget, it's the chat widget, the style is going to change to none. So which means that it's going to close. Okay, so I just don't want to make this very complicated. So this is the code. Let me see if the changes are reflecting already. I think not. You have to refresh the window here. it's not reflecting already. It's cool. We're gonna test that in a second, all right? So now I wanna work on the most important function, which is gonna be the one that's going to send or message to our backend, okay? So let's create a function which is gonna be send message, and let's open the function and close it. So I'm going to put a console log for us so we can see that we're hitting the function to test. Now we need to grab our input first. So const input element. That's gonna come from our document, div document get element by ID, and I think it's message input. Yeah, that's the ID that I put there. So now we need to grab this message, which is gonna be equal to input the value. So value, input element value, okay? So now we need to console, I'm going to console log the message, all right? So we can see whatever we type in the screen. So yeah, why not? Message. Now guys, we're gonna use Ajax to hit our backend, all right? So I have to call first Ajax, so const xhr, which is the convention, and then we're gonna call our Ajax object, xml HTTP request, I think it's this one, oops, HTTP request is this one right here. Then we're going to call our Ajax object here, and then we're gonna open, I think it's this one. And here we have to specify the type of function that it's going to be a post function, and then here we have to specify the ID, all right? So it's going to be https. I will work that in a second, all right? So this is the URL of the API, and then here we need the true, okay? Now we need to put our request headers. So let's call again our Ajax object and set the request headers, and it's gonna be a content type, content. Now the next thing that we have to do is we have to set the status code depending on of the message from our request, and you do that with this onload function from Ajax. The Ajax status code is 200. Okay, if the console, if the code is 200, we're just going to send in our screen message sent successfully, else we're going to have an error, okay? Console the error, some error occur. Okay guys, so now we also need from our Ajax object, we need our one error message, okay? So function, and here we are going to open a function again, and we're going to just console the log, whatever happens here. Again, another error. And if all these cases just go well, and we have a successful 200 status code, and we were able to send the message to the backend, we're just going to send the message. So let's call the Ajax object again. Let's send it, and then we have to first stringify it as a JSON. Okay. So now we can console the log message again. All right. So message. This is the message, and this is the message that we are grabbing right here from our input element, okay? From this div right here. So yep, I think that's pretty much it. And below here, we are just going to delete our input from our input div, okay? After we send the message, okay? So yes, that's pretty much how this would work. Let me save the changes, and I'm going to go back to Shopify to see if everything's working fine. The next step that we're going to have to do is we're going to create an API, but we're going to have a small exception. I'm going to tell you that right now because of why. Let me close these. Let me refresh the page. This is my chat widget, but for some reason it's getting overflow by these others. It gets overflow by this part right here, which is not a big deal actually. Let me just go back to my store and see if the code is working. Everything is working nice. Let's see if I send the message. Yep, as you guys see, we can send a message. If I click another part of the screen, the chat widget, the square disappears. Let me see if I'm logging this to my screen. Let's open the widget. Let's see. Yeah, I think the function is working. We have a pause function, but we don't have a URL yet. So that was pretty much it. That's how you create a widget. I'm pretty sure you've seen these chat widgets before in other websites. So now we need to create the API that will handle the communication between our two applications. Okay, so let's do that now. Okay guys, so here we have a diagram of what's going to happen right now. I wanted to show you, so because it's going to be a little, it can be a little confusing to understand. Since we're using Shopify, we are going to need to use everything in HTTPS in order to communicate with our API. So we definitely have to host our API in an HTTPS server. Okay, we can just do it locally using HTTP because the admin application, which is hosted in Cloudflare from Shopify, won't be able to communicate with our application. So what I'm going to do, what I did here is I'm going to buy, I have a domain with Squarespace domains. And this domain is going to be, I'm going to transfer it. So basically, I'm going to use Cloudflare DNS. I'm going to use the Cloudflare DNS servers to communicate with my Squarespace domain. So this domain is going to point to Cloudflare DNS every time somebody types the domain in the browser, okay? And in our Cloudflare DNS settings, I'm going to point that to my home IP address, which is going to be which you can find it. Just type in your local IP address in Google. And yes, so then the next step that you guys are going to have to do, if you want to do this locally, you can also use AWS or just host the server, using a cloud provider and so on. But you're most likely gonna have to pay. So I just wanted to make this a local project. So in your home, if you're gonna do it from your home lab, you're gonna have to choose a computer, go to your router. It's always the router IP address is always gonna be the first IP address in your subdomain. So for mine, router is this one. I'm going to show you 10.0.0.1 from Xfinity. Just log in here and you have to go to advanced settings. This is going to change for every home internet. So since we don't use Xfinity, anyways, it's going to change for every person. So, but it's basically the same thing. You just have to look for advanced settings and look for port forwarding. And then you have to choose the computer that you want to forward to open ports to. So I'm going to use a laptop that I have Ubuntu, and I'm going to port forward and open ports 80 and 443, which are the web ports for HTTP and HTTPS. Okay, so whenever we access these ports, my router is going to redirect this traffic. Whenever we access these ports from the outer internet, my router is going to redirect it to my PC using Ubuntu. Okay, and in my PC using Ubuntu, I'm going to have an Nginx web proxy, which is going to redirect my traffic, the traffic that comes from the internet, to my Express server that's going to be running on port 3000. Okay, that's basically, and that's how it's going to be the flow of this application. It's an interesting project. It's pretty cool. And yes, that's how we are going to do. So from now on, I'm going to change my computer. I'm going to use Ubuntu to create my server, and I'm going to do this configuration from there. Okay. And above here, I just have, the TMAP extension, which also uses HTTPS, because when we access our test store, this is the address, and this is hosted in Cloudflare. Shopify uses Cloudflare, and it's using HTTPS. So we definitely need, if we want to have some sort of API in between our applications, we need something hosted on HTTPS. I think you can also disable the browser, but why not? Let's just do it this way. So the project is going to be even more advanced, and you have more things to learn. We all have more things to learn here. And yeah, I think we can get started. Okay guys, so now that we are in our Ubuntu computer, I'm going to first, before creating this server, I'm going to go to my terminal and I'm going to show you my Nginx file so you guys can copy and paste it. So cd etc, maybe I'm going to upload this to GitHub as well. So cd nginx, cd nginx, okay, clear ls, I think it's right here, cd sites available less, and we have to sudo nano default. Okay, so this is the Nginx file. It's pretty simple. As I told you before in the diagram, as I told you in the diagram explanation, this is what we're going to do. Whenever we have traffic to ports 80 or 443, we're going to redirect that to our local host. That's going to be where our application is going to be running. Okay, so yeah, that's how this is going to work. As of for now, I have my local host right here, and we have nothing. And the URL, the domain that I'm going to use, that's using HTTPS, is going to be called poppyland.com. I will show you that in 1 second. Well, let me show you poppyland.com. And as you guys see, everything's set up already. You guys see that Cloudflare is working, but since I'm not running anything in my port 443, nothing is displayed here. So that should change once we are running our API. Okay, so let me close this part. Let me minimize the browser. Let me close this Nginx file. Let me close this part right here and open VS Code. Okay, and right here is where we are going to start working. I'm going to open my terminal. I'm going to click ls just to see where I'm at. cd desktop ls, and I think I have to open a folder first. Server.js. Okay, this is gonna be your server, and here we are going to open a new terminal. Okay, so npm init y. That's going to be our package.json, and here we are going to need a couple of dependencies. Okay, so the first I think I'm just going to use 3 course. Hold on. So npm install course. I'm going to use express, and I'm also going to use mongoose. Okay, mongoose. Let's install everything. Now I'm going to install a dev dependency. Install node one, save dev. Let me make sure we have installed everything. Yep, everything's working correctly. Now let me set up node one. So dev, and here we have to type node1 server.js. We're going to save the changes. I'm going to just console the log hit. I'm going to clear the terminal. npm run dev. And yeah, our server is working. You guys can see the hit from the console log. So we can start working on our server really quick. Let's see, I'm going to create a few folders right here that we are going to use. First is going to be the models. The second one is going to be controllers. And the other folder is going to be routes, okay? So I think the first thing that we need to do is set up the server so we can see it from our HTTPS domain. So let's just create an Express server, okay? So Express is gonna be coming from require Express. We also going to use const HTTP. Okay, let's see, what else do we need? We need course, const course equal require course. Okay, let's import mongoose as well. Mongoose require from mongoose. Okay, so now that we have that here, let's create an app object and then call our express function. So now that we have our express function, let's create a server, an HTTP server equal, it's going to be http.create server, and then we can inject our application. Now we can call the server object and then to listen to our port 3000. Okay, so this application is going to run on the port 3000. Now we can console the log server is running on port 3000. Okay, so that should be enough for now. We have a server running on port 3000, but I want to see every time I put the domain in my browser, I want to be able to see something, right? So we can check that the API is running. So what we can do here is we can display just a really basic HTTP page in our browser. That's going to be coming from our app that get. So from our root URL, we are going to request and response, put the arrow function right here. Oops, let's see. And here we're going to send an HTTP page. Okay, so I'm just gonna put it right here like this. Okay, we need an H1 and we are gonna call it Shopify API. So something happened. This part has to be like this. So let me save the changes again. And yeah, the application is running again. So I think if I go to port 3000, we have this Shopify API, which is pretty cool. So now let's see if the changes are affecting already on our HTTP domain. So as you guys see, the server is running in our HTTPS domain, so that means the app is working. It's exposed to the entire internet. And don't worry, after this tutorial I'm going to shut down the server so nobody can hack my internet connection. And yes, so let me close this part, and now we can focus on creating the real application. Okay, so now we are going to need a database as well, now that I remember, because I want to display the messages from the database in our Shopify admin. So I'm going to type mongoose connect. This is where we are going to display our URL for connecting to mongoose. And here, now that this is ready, I'm going to comment it because our application is going to crash if I don't put this link. So I'm just going to comment that part, and I'm going to go to my browser. I'm going to log in. Okay guys, so now that we are in our admin from Mongodb, I'm going to come here and I'm going to create a new project. Okay, I'm going to name it YouTube DB API. Let's just create a project. Okay, this is our database. We have to build a database, and I'm going to just choose the free plan. This user, then lock. The password is going to be 123456. Hello world. Okay, now that we have our user, so finish Okay, so now that we have finished our configuration from our database, I'm going to come here. We are going to go to connect. Let's go to this MongoDB VS Code, and this is what you have to copy. This is the link that we're going to use. Let's go back to our project. Let's uncomment this part. Let's paste this part, and here we have to replace this password for my password, which was hello world. Let me save the changes. And yeah, as you guys see, we have connected to our remote database. I'm going to just close this part, minimize the browser right here, and we can keep working on our project, okay? So now that we finished this part, I'm going to create a model. So let me create a file that's gonna be called message.js. We just need a quick model for our message. Mongoose. Let's import Mongoose. Require Mongoose. Now const message schema, which is going to be equal to a new mongoose the schema. Okay, so here inside here we're going to have an object which is just going to have one thing, content, and it's going to be a string. Okay, so now we can module exports, and then we can export our module. Okay, so mongoose the model, and here let's call it message, and then put our message schema right here. So that's basically it. It's gonna be a really simple API, and then we can start working in our controllers. So we're gonna have two endpoints, right? All right, so the first one is gonna be send message. So let me type send message controller.js. Now we need to import our message object from Mongoose require, and this comes from the models folder. Message. Okay, so now let's save this part, and now we have to create our method. Okay, so constant send message is gonna be equal to an asynchronous function that's gonna have a request and a response. If you guys are familiar with Node.js, this is very easy. Const message, we have to destructure the message that we are going to get from our request of body. Okay, and here let's have a try and a catch. So if something happens, so before this, let me just export this function module the exports, and here we can put our send message function, so we're able to access it from anywhere. Okay, let me save this part, and maybe let's go to routes and send message route.js. Let me copy and paste this part. Now let's const and send message controller. That's gonna be coming from our controller. Okay, so controllers and this file right here. Okay, so now let's create a router that's gonna come from our express router. Next we have to export this part, right? So module the exports. Let's export our router, and now we need to create our router.post, right? So this is going to be a post function. So let's specify the method. So it's going to be send message. This is going to be the URL, the endpoint, and here call our controller and then call our function. So yes, that's basically it. Let's go back to our controller and finish our method to send the message. So let's put a test case. If there's no message, we're going to do something. Okay, so if there's no message, we're going to res status, which is going to be 400, and we're going to send a JSON object. Okay, so we're gonna have an error here, and it's gonna be message require. Okay, so now we're going to have the result in a constant, and then we have to call await, call our message mongoose model, and then we're gonna create our object, okay, in the database, and we have to pass a content, and that content is gonna be our message. And if everything goes successfully, we're going to just send 200 response, or 201 status 201 the JSON, and let's put success here and then send the result. And if everything goes wrong, we're gonna have a server error, okay, which is gonna be a 500. And then let's put an error here and display the error. Okay, so this is gonna be our method for sending a message. Let's create another method to fetch in messages from the database. So let me type fetch message controller. And it's gonna be really similar to this other method, so let me just copy and paste it. Let me copy and paste this one. Fetch messages. Let me copy and paste this part, and we're not gonna do anything here. Let me delete this part, and then here we're going to grab our messages from our database first. So put everything in a constant and then call our await message dot find. So it finds everything in our collection database, and then we're gonna have a test case here. If there's no messages, we're going to return a response, the status code or 204, and JSON message, and then we're gonna have no messages found, and yeah, and if we have a response, let's just send res.json and send the messages, which I think that's pretty much it. Let's go to my routes folder again and fetch messages route.js. Let's copy and paste this part, which is gonna be similar as well. So let me just modify this part, fetch message controller, and this is gonna be a get request. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. Let's go back to our server, and now we are going to specify our routes right here. Okay, so now let me type app.use, and let me put the API endpoint right here, and let's have a require inside and call our routes controller. Okay, routes, and it's gonna be fetch messages. Let me copy and paste this bar as well. Let me see something. Oh yeah, it has the slash, and this one is gonna be send message route. Okay, so I think that was it well, I'm forgetting something. We are going to need also, since we're working with JSON, we need to use app use express.json. So express.json. Okay. And we also need course before I forget. So let me just do that below here, above here, I'm sorry, and bar course options. I'm going to have an array of options from course. So let me have this object created right here. App.use. And then we can specify course. And then inside here, let's inject our core options, okay? So now we're gonna have credentials equal to true. And here we're gonna have our origins, which is gonna be an array. Let me put a comma here so we don't have any errors. And yes, that's it. Let me try to just do a star. So it's going to accept, a request from anywhere. And if it doesn't work, I'm just gonna type the URLs manually later. So let's test that in a second. Let me save the changes, and I think the app's still working. It hasn't break yet, so let me open Postman. And let's see, I'm going to test this. I was testing this before. So send message, let's type a new message here, and I'm going to type hello YouTube. And let's check the database as well if it works. Hello YouTube, and yeah, the application is working, seems to be working. Let me go to my browser. Let's browse collections and see hello YouTube. Yeah, the application is working. Let me just fetch the messages. Fetch all messages. Okay, so this one is not working. Let's see. Let's see what seems to be the problem here. Send message, I think. Yeah, the problem is this one. Okay, get all messages. Let me go back to Postman. Let me try that one more time. And yes, now that we see everything's working, okay? So yes, so our API is working. So now the next thing that we need to do is we need to connect Shopify application with this API and our extension with this API as well. So yes, let's go back to my Mac and let's work on that, okay? Okay guys, so now we're back in my Mac, and the first thing that we're going to do, I'm going to test my endpoint, my send message endpoint, since it's ready. So I'm going to just copy and paste this link right here. This is where my API is hosted. As you guys remember, this is my custom domain, poppyland.com, API, the send message. I'm going to just save the changes here. And for 1 second, let me go to my browser. This is my database, as you guys see. Let me just refresh. This is a database. We have only one message store. Hello YouTube. That's what we tested with Postman before. Let me go to my browser and go to Poppyland. And yeah, as you guys see, the API is working correctly. We can access it from anywhere in the browser, from HTTPS. So let's just go here. I have to, 1 second, right here. Okay, I'm going to restart the application. So npm run dev. Let's just restart the application just for the sake of the app. I want to make sure everything's working. And let the application load. We see our extension, our remix, all the configurations. Yeah, everything seems to be working fine. Let me copy and paste this URL one more time. Let's go back to the browser again. This is our test store. come here. Yep, the application seems fine. I have to go to the online store in order to test this widget. Let me view my store online. The widget seems to be working fine. Okay. Let's see, let me open development tools. So if the message is working, we should be able to see a new message in our database, right? So let's see, how are you? Let's see if this is working. How are you? So we're having a course error. Okay, so in order to fix this part, I need to go to my backend development, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to do that right now. So we need, in order to do this, we need to access, just copy and paste this URL and paste it in our backend. Okay, instead of the star that I pasted, we need to paste these two URLs. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so that was it. That was ready. We should be able to see the changes in real time since the server is running right now. It's running live. Let me refresh the page. Okay, let's refresh the page and see what happens here. Let me open my widget again. Let me just scroll down so we can see, and let's try it out one more time. How are you? Okay, let's send the message, and as you guys see, the message was sent. We have hit how are you the message. We don't have a course error now. Let me go ahead and check my database. Let me see. Okay, let me refresh my database, and as you guys see, we have a how are you. So the first part of our flow of the application, we have make our team app extension communicate with our API server, and this API server is saving the messages, all the data that we send from this endpoint to here. We're saving it, everything in the cloud in Mongodb. Now we need to access this data from our Shopify admin API. So we are going to go back to my application. I'm going to go back to Remix here. This is all ready. I'm going to just close this folder. I'm going to go to my app. I'm going to go to routes. And from now, here we are going to create, I'm going to create a new screen, okay? So let me go to app.tsx. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to name this one chat. Let's name this screen chat. Let's go to routes and let's click app.chat.tsx. Let's create a React snippet. Let me just delete this boilerplate. Let's save the changes. Let me go back to my browser. Let me go to my test development store, Remix chat. It's this one. Let me go to chat just to make sure. Yeah, the app is working. I'm going to just open the terminal from now. Let's go to the store. As you guys see, everything's working. Let's try it one more time. I'm fine. Thanks for asking. Let's go back to MongoDB. Let's refresh the document. And that's pretty cool. Now we need to display these messages in our admin. Okay? So I'm going to go back to my VS Code, and then so now we're going to use Axios in order to hit our endpoint. Okay, so I'm going to go here. I'm going to open a new terminal, and I'm going to click npm install Axios. Okay, now that we install Axios, since we're using TypeScript, I'm going to need an interface that's going to be called message. And this message is gonna have an ID, which is gonna come from MongoDB. MongoDB generates these IDs by default, and then we have a content, which is our string. Now we need to use this interface, okay? So let's call messages and then set messages from our use state. And we are going to be fetching an array of messages, if I'm correct, and this is going to be an empty array by default, okay? So now we need to create a function that will trigger every time that we reload the page, basically. So let me create a const get all messages. That's going to be an asynchronous function. Synchronous function. Okay, let's have a try and a catch. Oops, I think I forgot this part. Okay, now here we're going to have a response that's gonna be coming from our Axios request. Okay, so we type Axios dot get. It's gonna be a get message of type message array. Okay, and this is gonna come from our URL. So the URL is gonna be https / is going to be www.poplan.com.api get all messages. I think that was it. Let me just make sure that's the correct URL. Yeah, now we can use our set messages, and then we can put our response the data right here, and then we have to just console log the data in order to test the API. So let me put a response the data as well. Okay, so this is our message function. Now we need to use this message function, right? So what happened here? Okay guys, so what we need to do next is we need to create a use effect. Let me just import use effect from React, and here we are going to call our function. So inside here we're going to call my get all messages function. Okay, so let me put an array here so it doesn't clog our browser. So now I think that's pretty much it here. Now we need to display the list of arrays, but first let me console the log what's happening here. So messages, let me save the changes, and we should go to our browser and everything should be working. Let's see, we're getting a course error again, but it's working. The function is trying to fetch. So now I need to fix my API again. I need to fix the origin from this URL. Let me just fix it really quick. Okay, I think that was it. I tried to fix it. I changed that. I import that URL into my course array in my backend. Let me refresh the page and see how's the error now. Let's see. I think it's still not working. Okay, now it's working. Now we see the response. As you guys see, we have an array of 3 messages that it's coming from our database, from MongoDB. So we have our hello world, we have a how are you, and then we have I'm fine, thanks for asking. So yes, that's pretty cool. That's all you had to do. Don't worry, I'm gonna put the code in my GitHub, so everything's gonna be there. No worries about that. Let's now display this list of messages right here. And I think that was gonna be it. That's going to be it for the tutorial. It was a pretty big tutorial, but I think it was pretty cool. Let me go back here, and now we can work on our UI. Now let's get rid of this div right here, and then create a page component from Polaris. Let's create a layout component, layout section, layout the section. Inside here, I'm going to have a div, and here I'm going to just put an h1, and it's going to be called chat. This chat is going to be coming from here. Okay, so let's type messages, and let's put a condition here. So if the messages are more than 0, we are going to display something. Okay, so if they're more than 0, we're going to display again a div. Let's display another div. So let me put the other condition here. So if there's no messages, let's just display an h1, no messages found. Okay, so if we have messages, we are going to map. All right, so let's map our messages, the map, this right here, and then let's call our message right here, which is going to be a type message, which is going to have our key, and that key is going to be our message.id, right? So let's close our div. And inside here, we're going to have a car. Okay, so that car that comes from Polaris, so we can see our messages displays nicely. So this car is going to contain our message content. All right, so message the content. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Let's see how everything's displaying in our application. Let me go back to my browser, and well, we have to refresh the app, I'm pretty sure. Not messages found, it's loading, and as you guys see, now we have our messages display. Let's see if we can do some real-time changes. If you really want to make this application real-time, you would have to use WebSockets. So yeah, just install WebSockets in your Remix part, and then also in your server, and then you can make this part real-time. But this is basically a chat, customer service chat application, similar to Gorgeous from Shopify, if you guys are familiar with that application. So let's see. Hello world, happy new year, so please subscribe to my channel. Let's see, we are sending these messages now. Since it's not real time, we're not gonna see the messages in real time, but let me just refresh the app and then go back to chat, and you guys can see all the messages here. Let me put a break after this card so the messages are displayed nicely. Let me put a break right here. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, right? So now I think we can do one more thing before I finish the tutorial. So let's create another layout section, layout the section, and inside this section I'm going to have a div. All right, so let me put a div here, and this div is going to contain a card. Okay, so let me put a card. Well, but this div is going to be a little special, so I'm going to have a class. Well, I don't need a class, I'm going to do the styles, inline styles. So here I'm going to have a position, and this position is going to be fixed. Okay, fixed. Then I'm going to have a bottom right here, and the bottom is going to be 0, so it's going to be all the way below. Some of you probably already know what I'm doing here. So width is going to be 95%. And here inside this card, I'm going to have a background. So yes, so the background from the card, this is how you apply colors to our Shopify, to our car widget. Let me save the changes and show you what I'm doing right here. Let me save again. And as you guys see, we have these this little menu right below. That's typical from chats, that you have a menu below here. So let me put something here. We can have maybe just a text field. Text field. Let me copy and paste it. Oh, yeah. All right, so I think I need a couple of props. Let me see what we need. I think we need the label. Let's not put a label, and we need also autocomplete, which is gonna be off. Now below here we can put a button. Send. Let's see what we get in here. And yeah, as you guys see, we need to style it a little bit more. Let me send some other messages. Hello, so we can see the scrolling part. Thank you for watching. Happy 2024. And yeah, for some reason my backend crashed, but yeah, now I just fixed it. There was no reason. Here, let me just close this bar so we can see. So yeah, we have a little bit of scrolling, but yeah, I just wanted to show you how you can stick the nav bar. But yes, this was basically how the entire application flow works, and I hope it was a useful and good tutorial and a good starting point if you are getting started with Remix. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you guys liked the tutorial. Thank you for watching again. Happy New Year. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's content. Have a great day and bye-bye.